All right, today we've got Garrett Russell with us. Garrett, God, I don't even know how to introduce it. I mean, you have had an episode with us before, and I'm sure we went through all of the
I've had
history of
many
Silent
episodes.
Planet at that point.
Yeah.
But it's been too long. It's just been too long. Like I haven't seen you in person for probably a couple years. It's probably been 2 or 3 years. I mean, it was like the last album cycle when we last had you on. So it's been a while since we've just hung out, and I've been missing
Yeah.
a Garrett Russell hangout for a while. So I'm
Thank
glad
you
that
for
you're
having
finally
me.
here, and hopefully we can just do this in person again sometime soon. I'd love to see you in person again.
Dude, I would really like that. Please come hang.
It's just
That'd
been
be a
too long.
blast.
Both of
It's
you.
been
Just
too long.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Let's get right into that last album cycle. When we talked to you, you said that you had most of the songs for this album already written, and that you almost seemed at the time more excited for this album
I remember
I
than the
that.
was.
album that you were plugging at the moment.
I
It was
was.
it's just wild that you know it's it it seems like it's been a long time, but it really hasn't from our perspective. But I'm sure from your perspective, it's been like ages.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think time time started moving again since we spoke, like, touring and everything,
Yeah.
and I moved and have just been up to some stuff. So it's yeah, it's been a lot of life. But it's been good. I appreciate you having me last time, and yeah, this is a record that I think we were already more excited about. At the time of plugging the previous record, and yeah, it's fun to be able to hang.
Yeah.
Well, I still remember when we last had that conversation about Iridescent, and as much as I loved it, and then like maybe it was a few months, maybe a year later, I don't remember exactly the time frame, but you released Signal,
Yeah, yeah,
the single, and I was like, this is by far the best Silent Planet song I've ever heard. And
Yes.
you guys are known for good singles, great, obviously like great overall albums, but that single was Signal. I was like, holy shit. If this is like the mark
dude,
of new Silent Planet stuff, that this is what I am on board for.
Yeah.
And
dude, thank
certainly
you.
we get like a good mix of that in the new album with Super Bloom. And I don't know. It's just like that felt like a really like marketed shift where it was like whole like you guys are entering into new territory that is feels different, but you guys just like mastered it so well. And anyway, I
Thank you.
that's all to say. I loved when you guys released Signal, and obviously that like feels like a really great like trajectory towards what you guys got going on now.
Yeah, we really were proud of Signal, and honestly, it was kind of interesting because we put it out, and it was people, seemed a little excited when they heard it, but pretty quickly it was like it wasn't a very marketable song. Like, it was definitely one of our weird, like, we're gonna
Well,
start
that's what I loved
here
about
and
it. It was so
and we're
weird.
gonna go here, and we're really proud of those, and we'll keep doing those types of songs. But it's just funny because, like, after that, we, like, took another year basically, and then it's like, "Okay, here's Antimatter." I think that that's more of what, like, gets you on, like, Spotify playlists and gets you in front of, like, new ears, and so, then we put that out, and that one did a bit better, but, yes, we like it all, I think, we're fans of music that can kind of, be more of those A to B journey songs, and we also really like to make stuff that feels catchier, I guess. That's kind of what we want to challenge ourselves to, I guess, try to do as much of just music in general as we can, instead of being like, oh, we're only going to write catchy Spotify, s- kind of like, easier to digest songs, or like, oh, we're only going to do super whatever. And I think for a lot of bands, they become one or the other, because like if you're not
Mm.
really like cool and artistic and cred, then like, well, then you go for the commercial thing. And for us, it's like, I think we're just kind of like, honestly, weird nerds who are like, no, let's see if we can do both. And I'll let someone else decide if we do them successfully or not. But our goal is to like just kind of do different things, because when you like, kind of different pop artists, and then you also like different types of like experimental gazy stuff or whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
it's why not just like try to be a little bit of both, I guess.
It's funny you say that. You said that Signal, in your opinion, wasn't very marketable. Um, I
Well, it was marketed at least two people, you and I, Cullen.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely hit the stream right there for Mason and I. But just today, I was playing Signal in the weight room, and I have a bunch of students that were up there with me, and I go up to them and I go, they're big Nickelback fans, right?
Oh, okay, yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
is more marketable than that, at least to them. And I go, why would you listen to Nickelback when you could listen to this? And they all go, this stuff rips. This stuff's actually pretty awesome. So I think you have a market. I think you have a
I
market.
gotta say, man, if they go from Nickelback to like Signal, that is wild.
Well,
Like I would
yeah,
I would think they would need like first they would maybe need like Avenged Sevenfold or something,
Right,
and
right.
and then after that, like maybe hit them with some like Haste the Day,
yeah,
as they dying under oath or something, and then hit them with like some Meshuggah, and then like because we're pulling from so much, it's just funny to imagine like the jump from like Chad Kroger to me. Even though one time outside of a bar in Denver, Colorado, a lady once said, "Are you the guy from Nickelback?" And I didn't live it down for
What?
the rest of yeah, I didn't li I know, she was
You don't
drunk,
even look
I
like
get it.
him.
Yeah,
did
I
she
know I think just she saw curly hair and a guy with some facial hair and was like, "Yeah." And I think
That could
because
be
we were
any
all
guy in
standing
Denver.
around and we looked like band people or something, but yeah, she said that and, like, for the rest of that tour, everyone called me Chad.
did she throw
You can
rocks
ask
at you
Sean
too?
from Phineas about it. Sean, witnessed it.
Oh, well, next time we talk to Sean, we'll definitely bring this up because it's like, hey, Sean, heard you toured with Chad from Nickelback at one point.
Yeah. Well, that means
Yeah,
that means you guys have to do a Nickelback cover now, right?
you know? Um look at this photograph and it's like photograph like look at this graph and it's a graph that shows all of the war crimes committed by the United States or something. Yeah,
Oh my god,
I could see
that
it.
sounds that's like straight tar, like black tar heroin right into my veins if you were to do that.
That would
That
be
that's
that
like
would be a form of a cover.
the reason I would love that so much is just because it'd be like tongue in cheek, like
Yeah,
protest using like the most like derivative version of a popular, alternative rock song. I think that's brilliant. You should do that.
yeah, I'm here for it, honestly. Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe like change around a few of the lyrics to make it even more like anti-war and everything.
that would be cool. I have a question for you. Just
Y- Yeah.
is System of a Down a guilty pleasure band, or is that just are people proud
Oh
to
man.
be fans of System of a Down?
That's a great question because I hear it seems like people are either one way or the other on it. I am fully on board with saying System of a Down, they're an enigma. They're a thing unto themselves, and therefore they can't be a guilty pleasure. Um, uh,
Okay,
I think they're just too fucking cool personally. But I do
I
know a
do
lot of
too.
people that think that they're a guilty pleasure.
Well,
So
because, there's the I
yeah.
like, he
Or
literally he does that on a
yeah,
song,
like
or,
like
like
like, like pizza pie, right?
yeah,
I mean,
Peter
that's
pie,
like
pick up banana, pizza
yeah,
pie, pepper why? Yeah, exactly, like, there's some
it's the
it's,
most
like,
ridiculous shit.
goofy, but then there's also some really great lyrics.
Yeah. You know what
"Life
I
is a
think?
waterfall, we're one with the river and one again after the fall."
It's
It's pretty
brilliant.
good.
This is my theory. System of a Down is the talking heads for um for metalheads. Like
Yeah,
like
wow.
super super fucking goofy, but also like definitely has like some deep ass meanings in there and everything.
Wow,
And
that's a good one. Your System of a Down is Talking Heads for metal heads,
yeah, yeah, I think so.
for metal listeners. Yeah, I mean, I really can see that.
And both of them are super groove oriented as well. So I mean, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah, and they have, like, cult follow well, I guess System of
Cult
a Down has
followings,
a
yeah.
I guess it's maybe less of a cult follow I feel like System of a Down is just kinda huge if you're into rock and metal,
Yeah,
because I think they had songs that they had a lot of, like, crazy, silly, ridiculous ones, but I
yeah.
think they had enough, like, legitimate, just kinda, like, radio bangers.
Mainstream, yeah. Like
Yeah, like the
BYOB
Bush
or something like that.
like, yeah, wouldn't you say BYOB is the most famous Bush rock protest song?
Um, yeah,
Not hip hop,
either
just
that
rock.
or I suppose what was Rage? Was Rage more Clinton era? I'm trying to
I
remember.
that that's I guess where my head was at. I mean,
I think the only ones that could come close would maybe be Rage Against the Machine, but I don't know. That's a good question.
yeah, like
Uh,
Los Angeles. I'm trying to remember when that album
yeah, I'm
was.
looking it up right now
Battle for
quick.
Los Angeles.
Isn't that 91?
1999. Yeah. So you see, I
Yeah.
think I think that
No,
all the like rage classics you think about are definitely more just like
anti-neocon,
yeah,
right?
into neocon, and I think obviously like Rage Against the Machine is way feels way more like politically even more politically focused and is like more activism oriented. I think System
Yeah.
of a Down was more kind of like just wanted to like
Shed light.
wanted to shed light and wanted to show
Yeah.
the absurdity of it, but also was so focused on just I think the absurdity of all things in life
Yeah.
that like rage obviously is a political entity, I think, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, all that is I was just
True.
wondering if you
Yeah.
yeah, thought that maybe that song BYOB is the like the Bush era song.
I think it has to be, right?
A protest. Yeah.
For sure.
Mason, can you think of another Bush era protest song that is anywhere
Oh,
near
American Idiot
as
by Green
big
Day.
as
Oh, yeah, I guess I just hate no, wait, sorry. I'm not trying to be a hater.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of
You
Green
can hate. You
Day.
can hate. You can hate on this podcast.
I don't know.
me
I don't
either.
hate Green Day.
Yeah.
I just think that I'm not a fan of Green Day, and I think if you're right. You know what? That was a way bigger Bush protest song, and I think frankly, it was so overplayed. If you were there back then, that it's just like I can't. I actually physically can't listen to Green Day.
it,
It's the same
it
thing
is
with like a
I
lot of
obnoxious.
also think it
Rihanna's
was
hits. Like a lot of Rihanna's
oh
hits were
yeah.
so overplayed
Oh
when I was
yeah.
in college on the radio that like I physically can't listen to them. It's not that they're bad. I just can't.
I also think there's something to be said about a protest song that when it's overplayed, it loses its meaning. Like I think American
Yeah.
Idiot
Wow.
completely lost its meaning in its popularity.
Mm,
I don't
that's
know.
really interesting. Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I mean, especially when it starts getting like ad syncs with like Mazda and shit. You're just like you're like, yeah, this doesn't make you think about like the war in Afghanistan now. It's this
Yeah.
is just makes you think about cars or NFL or whatever it was synced
Yeah.
with. It was
Totally.
definitely synced with Madden. I remember that. It was
I
like
do remember
on
that.
Madden.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do remember that. I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
that
think
you're
Green
not
Day
the
too.
only
Green
person that
Day
plays
got
Madden. I
so
feel
big
like
that
almost
yeah.
everybody that I know that plays video games like doesn't ever play sport video games, but that's all I ever played growing up was like Madden and NCAA football and all those kind of games. So like at least Garrett Russell knows what it was like to play Madden 2000
Yes.
what, 7
Oh,
or
and Blitz.
2005.
Blitz was my favorite because there were
Yeah,
no
Blitz.
Blitz.
rules. There are no
Just
rules.
It was the best. I just turned that on my N64 the other day. And I had a blast still. It's still really, really
Blitz
good.
holds up, and as someone that like I grew up with the sport games, but don't uh now I haven't played one in a long time. I've always but you know like the old NBA jams on the arcades. Did
oh
y'all play those?
yes.
The 2v2,
Oh
you could be like
yeah.
Pippen and Jordan, or I don't think you could be Pippen and Rodman versus like
Yeah.
um Vlade Divac and Magic Johnson or something.
Yeah.
Uh yeah.
I feel like every friend group has a friend that thinks they're the best in the world at that game.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because you know, at some point you're in an arcade just beating other 7-year-olds. You're like, I'm awesome at this. It's like, no,
Well,
you were a 7-year-old beating a 7-year-old.
my favorite NFL Blitz story was Cullen and I used to go to the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. We grew up in South Dakota. And we'd go there for like mission trip stuff. But like it was like
Mhm.
this church that was there that we became really good friends with the people that like went to that church. And they always had like these like 4-year-old, 5-year-old like native kids that because this church had like an N64 and they had like NFL Blitz, and there was like 4 or 5 year olds playing NFL Blitz that were like so fucking good at NFL Blitz, and they're like they don't even really know what they're doing. Like they don't even know the game of football. They just like know how to play NFL Blitz. And
Just
I
how
was
to
just
win that
remember
game.
like
That's funny.
these kids from Pine Ridge were so fucking good at NFL Blitz.
And every
That's
game, every video game that was there, Mario Kart, they would just own all of us.
Yeah, they would destroy.
I'll tell you what though. I would right now, I guarantee you, Mario Kart, I would go destroy anyone for any one of those
Do you
people.
do that little thing where
Mario
you
Kart
like you hold
64
down
is the
one
only
button and
game.
then you shake it or whatever and you're able to like boost around
Yeah,
the corners?
you use the R trigger to jump, and then you have to like
Yeah, you have to
you have to go back and forth on the joystick.
Yeah.
I was actually just the other day, that's so funny we were talking about this. I was playing the Mario Kart Double Dash on the GameCube, which came out, later.
Yeah.
And it made me just miss the older version, the 64 version so
Yeah.
much because that one you could have a little jump thing which allowed you to like kind of hop over the grass real quick, or like you could even jump like the bananas and stuff. So it just
Yeah.
makes the skill ceiling like higher because you have this like really old kind of like goofy game that also has this incredible amount of control. Anyways,
Dude, I'm
played a lot of
racing.
that on tour with the Ongoing Concept. That band
There
used
we
to have a
go.
Man,
Mario Kart station built into their trailer because
dude.
Dawson, like
Yeah.
he's one of those guys that like for listeners who don't know this, the Ongoing Concept solid state band, they like are so DIY that they had a record where he built all of his instruments, like he cut down the trees
Everything.
and he like he did everything. He built the instruments, he recorded the whole record, he shot all the videos. And like then like I don't know. I feel like a lot of people slept on that band because they were really, really good, and it was just like it's almost too amazing and too good for like Warped Tour music scene people to be able to like grasp.
Yeah,
Anyways,
appreciate.
Yeah.
cool band,
I
cool guy.
I think the other problem with that is it was just the wrong time. I mean, they started at like the only time when in the last like 20 years that metalcore really wasn't that cool.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, metalcore was kind of going through a slump, and I think the
Well,
only reason my band was able to come up is we were like kind of doing some not metalcore stuff
I think
and
so.
with
Yeah.
the metalcore kind of, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think
Well,
you're
That's a
right.
let's
good
talk
point. Yeah,
more.
metalcore did stop being cool. I mean, it's all kind of hardcore, or at least it was. I think maybe it's kind of becoming more just whatever now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Let's talk about more of Super Bloom. Uh, yeah, what were some of the things that you guys were wanting to explore a little bit more that maybe you hadn't explored before in Silent Planet? Like obviously you guys have
Yeah,
always tried like every album there's like a little something new that you guys try to explore. What was the new
so
thing that you
much.
guys tried to explore in this album?
Yeah, I mean, musically, like different types of like really like brutal, heavy simplicity, and really like I think we've always loved like it's like Meshuggah, for instance. I mean, not that their music's all simple; some of it's really complex, but just like repetition and really kind of like building tension in different ways. I think we started trying to even have more fun with different types of electronics, some old school, some new school, just like kind of playing around with different stuff in the electronic world. I think lyrically, and I think even better speak to lyrically because I'm by no means the primary like musical architect in my band. I'm the primary like writer of lyrics and melodies, and it's a lot of collaboration, and that's one thing I'm thankful for is our band is like a band in that traditional sense where it's not just like one person at a computer. It's
For
it's a
sure.
group effort, which is fun. Even though Mitch does have to spend a lot of time on his computer to give him respect, he tracks it all, the guitars and the bass, and he's very involved with it and stuff. But Alex will be there too. And all that is to say, musically, they could probably speak to that better. But lyrically, when you talk about differences, it was kind of embracing a lot of kind of different types of storytelling uh, efforts, including kind of embracing some kind of fantasy, science fiction mixed with reality, mixed a lot with conspiracy theories. I think in, we are what we, um, like our parents always said, "You are what you eat." We are what we
Mhm.
consume, and I think in the process of writing this record, I consumed a lot of crazy kind of mixture of like mythology and um, controversial conspiracies and whatnot. And so I think embracing that on this record was, to say the least, something that kind of started to seep through my pores, and s- a lot of stuff that I still have a really deep interest in from this record cycle that'll probably continue. So yeah, a lot changed with this record. I think this was the most conscious and deliberate effort to kind of go from one place to another for us.
Well, speaking of conspiracy theories, I mean, you guys definitely Skillet was my favorite conspiracy theory band up until you guys releasing Super Bloom. So maybe Silent Planet's going to overtake Skillet and be my favorite conspiracy theory
What's
band.
Skillet's conspiracy? Like, the election was stolen from Trump kind of thing, or what?
Oh, I'm 100% like when people were storming the Capitol, I'm sure Skillet was like being played,
It would at
or at
least
least
be like
people.
the perfect music to storm the Capitol to.
Oh, it's got to be them.
You
It's
know
got to
what I
be
think
them.
is wild about the January 6th thing? I just gotta say this. You ever think
Say
that,
it.
like, it happened during the whole COVID pandemic when you're supposed to wear a mask and stuff,
Right.
and
Right.
it's so wild that the people that stormed the Capitol are also happen to be the people whose, like, one of their primary identifiers of in-group, out-group was not wearing a mask, and so they were faced with this
Sure.
thing where it's like, do you wear the mask like a liberal but not go to federal prison? Or do you not wear the mask for a couple hours and you go to federal prison? And it's wild to think that someone's in prison because they were like, they're gonna throw us in prison if we don't wear masks. But then they did something that if they were, yeah, I just think about that sometimes.
Well, I remember
That's a
even
song.
like I do remember during like the George Floyd protests, like part of the reason like the mask was like such a important part was like you could wear a mask which like concealed your identity, but also like probably should be wearing a mask if you're going to be around like a whole group of people
Right.
during these protests. So like I do remember that being like a part of it, where it's like there's actually like multiple good reasons to be wearing a mask right now.
Yeah. Also, when it's cold, I learned wearing a mask is tight when you're really cold. It's really great.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
it. Learned to do that up in Minnesota actually a couple years
That's right.
ago.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just something I think about. And of course, I'm not one of those people who thinks like, you know, the whole January 6th thing was kind of ridiculous because like it was just all based off of Trump's like narcissism and stuff. However, it was I'm a fan of the government having some level of awareness that like people are like to be afraid of. It's like when who was it? When Nixon, I believe he was in office during Vietnam, and he says at some point, to one of his staff members, like, they were, like, outside burning buses outside of, like, the White House gates, and he's like, "Oh my god, I think they're gonna get in. I think they're coming." And, like, obviously, I'm not for, like, actually breaking into that, but it's I think it's important that people, that the government is, like, aware that, like, like that it has to put the common person first.
Yeah, keeps
Yeah.
I
them
think
keeps them on their heels, right?
it does. It really does because I think whether that's the only thing people seem to be able to agree on in our country is like whether you're right or left. You're like, I think people are pretty suspicious of politics, especially the fact that politicians and just kind of get paid off to write laws for corporations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I remember like when that whole thing went down, and I remember like all these liberals freaking out about like they got into the
Yeah,
Capitol
right.
as if they
Hand
like
wringing.
they as if they like are desecrating a church or something. I'm like,
Right.
is the
Exactly.
Capitol that sacred to you that you think of it as a church? I'm like,
Right.
this is literally a
I think
Capitol building.
No, that
Like,
was my thing. Like, if someone
what
was
the
like, "Oh
hell?
my god, these people, like, think everything they read on the internet is true and that, like, JFK's son's gonna come back and, like, resurrect and this whole thing," that's really weird and, like,
Yeah.
troubling. But the whole idea that's, like, it's like some building and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, like, it's a government building, the government has to, like." Yeah, that it's funny how people make a whole church out of stuff, but I think that that is a lot of the, mythology behind American supremacy is guided by a religious belief that this is, like,
Oh yeah.
kind of like the city upon a hill, you know?
Yeah, both from the right and the left, even
Totally,
to a certain degree.
totally. Republicans, Democrats, yeah, totally. Like I think they both carry shades of that. Maybe just some of them choose to write it and codify it with their own like religious or secular language.
Is there a conspiracy theory that you are most keen on that you're like, there's something to this one?
Oh, for sure. I mean,
That Kurt Cobain was trans.
I haven't heard that.
I
Oh, you
haven't
haven't
heard
heard
that
that? Oh,
either.
yeah. There's like a lot of conspiracy theory that like Kurt Cobain was actually like a trans woman that had he
If I was on
lived.
TikTok, I feel like I would know this. I've never heard that, to be
Oh yeah,
honest.
this is
I've
like
never
it's a
heard
pretty
this.
like it's a fairly famous one. I don't know if it's there's a conspiracy theory that like Courtney Love killed him. I don't think that
Well,
one has as much merit, but yeah,
I was
there's
actually
a lot of
talking
merit
about
around
that.
the fact that he might be trans.
My vocal trainer's worked with Courtney Love, and I kind of was I was talking about that with her and like asking her like just different stuff. And I'm not gonna get into all this stuff because some of it was in private. But point is, she was like that's such a ridiculous idea because Courtney was the kind of person who would like be doing 20 things at once and just would be like was all over the place. The idea that she would be like also like sneaky killing Kurt was just like unbelievable because
Right.
that's just her energy was like the opposite of what it requires to be like a hunker down and be silent and
A focus
like
killer.
yeah, like I play it cool while you kill someone. Like there's just
Yeah,
not
I've
who she
definitely watched
was.
enough true crime to know like she doesn't seem to have the personality. Like she's got a lot of issues,
No.
but like she doesn't
Yeah.
seem like she's the person to kill somebody. That takes a
Definitely
certain kind
not.
of
I
personality and
the
issue.
issue, if you wanna get specific about the Cobain situation and why I think a lot of people have questions is because, as you know, the way that he killed himself and the level of heroin that was in his system seem incongruent. Like, you don't normally see those 2 things happening because he would have had to have done really a gymnastic type of thing. I'm not gonna get into the gory details, but he would have had to have do a gymnastic type of maneuver to be able to have completed what happened. And people are like, how are you going to do that when you're like floating in the air on just an incredible amount of heroin? So, people can make of that what they will. But, anyways, conspiracy theories that I do believe in. And by the way, Kurt had really bad stomach issues and doctors were giving him opioids instead of like probiotics because back then they didn't know shit about the whole like microbiome gut
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
That's
Health.
I don't know if that's a conspiracy theory,
He
but that
wasn't
is
taking his
something that
Activia or what?
yeah, exactly. He didn't have what he needed for his gut, and that honestly breaks my heart because, I think a lot of people always, like, make him a character of, like, oh, addiction and being this, like, degenerate rock musician, but by all reports, he was, like, a really happy, fun guy who was a great, dad and loved to make music, and it's a bummer 'cause I don't think he was, like, feeling sorry for himself his whole life. He was a pretty cool, active guy. Conspiracy theories, well, the Zimbabwe alien sighting, I definitely believe that that
Oh,
absolutely
okay.
happened
Well,
as
that's
the
on the
kids
cover. That's on the cover of the album, right? The 3 dots in the sky.
there's some influence from a few different UFO things, but there's I guess, to stay on the topic of this record, there's a lot of conspiracies within it, that, we could talk about that, have influenced it or different sightings. I mean, a lot of it isn't even conspiracy anymore. It's living in this weird middle space where it's in the public's imagination, and we now have footage, from the U.S. Navy that's like, oh, check out these crafts, and this is, there's all these videos and pilots on 60 Minutes talking about how they just routinely saw things that defied our known laws of like physics and so we're aware that that's like something that a lot of people that have a lot of credibility are talking openly about. But then there's some older situations that I think are seen as hoaxes, and one of them's the Zimbabwe. I think it was 1994, the aerial school. um
I don't know
Gonna
if I
look that
know of
up.
this one. I
I
feel
don't know
like I
this
know a
one
lot
either.
of the UFO sighting stuff, but I don't know if I know this one at
So,
all.
yeah, September 16th, 1994, aerial school. Just wanted to make sure I was saying the right words. So basically, it was an international school. There was a lot of like politicians and diplomat kids at the school. Um, it was a very kind of intercultural, interlinguistic, I think a pretty like pretty high up there school as far as like prestigious in the area. And the kids were at like recess, and 50 of them, I actually, I don't know. A lot of the kids come back and they all have the same story, where basically these beings came down in like a craft and they had like big eyes and they just telepathically told these kids all these things. And these kids, like, who don't have like crazy personality, crazy lying backgrounds, they're just like these, well, these kids in like a kind of nicer school that are like, by all accounts, I think, your average kid, are all just saying these like wild things about like these beings told me that if we don't stop the growth of technology and and what we're doing to the environment, and then real like it'll soon be irreversible and everyone's going to die and suffer. And they were like just saying all this stuff that you would not expect to come out of a kid. And like weeks and months later, and the kids were saying the exact same thing, and psychologists came in and were like trying to figure out what had happened to these kids because they're not, kids are really bad liars. Like
Yeah.
like an 8 or a 9-year-old's not gonna concoct this one day and then trick a bunch of adults. Like, that just isn't gonna happen.
Let
That's
alone keep
just
their
as likely
story
that
straight.
yeah, I mean, just as likely as, like, that your dog's gonna, like, tell you a joke and you're gonna laugh. Like, there's no way that kids are gonna trick a bunch of people. So they're all saying the same thing. And then this psychologist comes over from Harvard, John Mack. And,
Oh,
Mason,
Cullen,
I
any
don't know if you're
relation?
familiar with John Mack, because he he's an interesting figure in psychology because he was, like, bored of psych at Harvard and all this stuff, and basically
Yeah.
he goes and interviews the kids, and his colleagues are calling him out saying, like, we should take away his license and all this stuff because he's even, like, daring to talk about this UFO stuff openly. And he interviewed a lot of people that were abducted, and he challenged the concept that people that claim to have abductions are all just schizophrenic or something, because that's kind of how um, the political entity of the APA treated people talking about having these paranormal experiences. It's like, you're all crazy. And so this guy really challenged that and almost lost his position, just for challenging it. But he's one of the most published, respected psychologists in American academic history. And so he's interviewing the kids in Zimbabwe, and just like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this seems quite genuine. So something to look into. That's going to be the conspiracy theory I'll pick.
That's an interesting
Yeah.
one.
I don't know if I've ever
Are
even
are
heard that one
aliens
before.
would cryptozoologists be the ones that study aliens?
Well, I was just talking about this. When we talk about aliens, I think a lot of times people just assume it's either like we do these categories where like you have like an angel and you have like an alien, and you're like, these are categorically different things. Angels come from like, those are real and they're like friends of God, and like, they're all on like God's team. And then we have aliens, which is like in our sci-fi universe, and they're these little green guys.
Right.
And it's just funny because when you think about like the way that a lot of people describe angelic beings and stuff, and then the way that we talk about it, they're not so different really at all. And so whether I think some people think, oh, this is a race that comes from Mars or probably some other solar system, um, the Zeta, whatever, some other cluster of stars and stuff they come from, or they're like spiritual beings, is like one or the other. And it's like, I don't think there's any way that something's moving. It's possible, but I don't imagine people traveling through the like traveling through the universe, going from solar system to solar system to hang out with us. I imagine is like a dimensions of reality kind of situation.
Oh shit.
You have like probably, at least, I mean, mostly, and you've heard the quantum thing of like there's probably like 10 dimensions of reality. We obviously
Yeah.
only experience a number of them.
4,
But
I
then
think, right?
just, yeah, and the idea that there's more and more kind of dimensions stacked on top of ours, and you get different stuff like that, or the um, like the double slit experiment where like particles behave differently if they're observed. You get these different things that lead, some people to say, okay, it's a simulation of a reality. And so maybe things that are coming in and out of our simulation from other simulations or you get people that are like, oh no, it's more just like dimensional beings, like particles, like when you separate them, but they're still in sync because they're operating on a different plane, of existence. That there's things that have potentially could be mobile through dimensions, and like whether it's purposeful or it's accidental or it's just like energy, they're like moving through our dimension. And so that's like when we talk about it, I just, to be clear, that's kind of how I see it. Like when Mexico's government has this guy like present the UFO, the alien, and it's like a body, and you saw it on Twitter, the alien body a couple months ago. Like I know that stuff's going to be ridiculous because that's just out of like our very physicalist
Right.
notion of reality, where like things are just strictly matter as we can understand them. But I think we're talking about things that we barely have the language for.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Next time you come to Minneapolis, I got a book for you that I'd love to give to you. You ready for
Yeah.
this?
Yes.
So I interviewed this. He's a process philosopher and theologian. Actually, the
Who?
first time we ever met was at a process
Trip?
theology event.
Is it
It's
Trip
not
Fuller?
Trip. It's not Trip that wrote this, but it's a buddy of ours,
Okay.
Trip and mine. His name is Andrew Davis, but he just wrote a book. I forget the exact title, but it's something about exolife, is how he describes it. So instead of like extraterrestrial life or aliens, he describes it
Yeah.
as exolife. But basically, he's making this argument that metaphysically, from a Whiteheadian perspective, from Whitehead's metaphysics, that what we would describe as like extraterrestrial life is certainly possible. And so he basically makes this argument of thinking, like, how do we think through this philosophically and theologically through the fact that like the possibility of extraterrestrial life is possible. It was really, really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah,
But he
totally.
thinks of all of it is through like Whiteheadian metaphysics. So like when you're talking about like these like different dimensions and the different ways of thinking about the cosmology and the metaphysics of the universe, like that's essentially the argument he's flowing through is like this argument around cosmology
Interesting.
and metaphysics.
I heard of Whitehead and I knew he was a process dude. I don't know anything about his metaphysics though. So
You definitely, other than the fact that like everything is in relationship and everything like
okay,
the
yeah.
future is
Okay.
completely open to all sorts of possibilities. That's all you need to know about Whitehead.
That
But
would basically
that's
be
essentially the
that would be
argument
all
he's
I
making.
would say. That's all. If I had an essay, tell me about Whitehead, I'd be like, yeah, God's a relational experience, I think.
Just those,
That's
yeah,
about
just
I
those two lines. That's all you need to know.
that's what I get.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
essentially the argument
Okay.
to be made around the possibility for exo life as
Yeah.
he would describe it, but extraterrestrial life. So I definitely think there is something to be said about it. So yeah, I'm
Yeah, no,
100% on board.
that's exciting. I really like that exo life, and I'm gonna like, yeah, I don't need to write that down because it's a pretty easy thing to remember, I think. But I'm gonna keep that one because the closest thing I came to finding it was ultra terrestrials.
Mm.
That's like what I actually say it in the album at some point. It's a lyric, but I basically, this is an ongoing story. So like the album that we just put out is a series of documents, and I think I actually the first time I ever mentioned it was on the first podcast that we had together.
Oh,
But this that's what the record is inspired by, and
here's that book, by
that's
the way, just in case
oh,
you're wondering.
thank you. I'm gonna
Yeah,
screenshot
Metaphysics of
this.
Exolife,
I'm
toward a
screenshotting a screen
constructive
grab.
Whiteheadian
No meta.
cosmotheology. Obviously, a lot of like it's very academic. Don't get me wrong; it's very, very academic, but it's really great. Like, I mean, it really starts to
I'll
explore
learn a
that.
bunch of words.
Yeah, and it's not like trying to get into like what's the evidence around like the Mexico evidence or all the it's not trying to make that argument at all. It's just trying to purely is
Right.
extraterrestrial life even metaphysically possible?
Is it
And
metaphysically possible, and what are the implications if it
right,
is, I'm guessing? Yeah, and yeah, this idea of, beings that aren't just, from a different planet just like us, but different skin and different clothing or something, but the idea of just maybe even us in different dimensions accidentally or purposefully reaching out to each other, the way that we, manipulate energy, and wondering, like, what long-term implications of different stuff would be. what it would mean, if the whole world was nuked over, like what that might do to like time, space, and small amounts of,
Hmm.
you know, of of our existence. And which is also a thought that I it's weird to think that they've found like different. My understanding is they've found different remnants of isotopes on Mars that would suggest that there could have been a nuclear explosion at some point on Mars. And the idea that Mars was a more hospitable place to the human life than the Earth was millions and millions of years ago before its environment, fell apart.
Let-
Is just that's all crazy thoughts too. But I'm more, as far as what I actually believe is it's less of kind of sometimes the crazy planetary conspiracies and more the idea that there are simply beings from higher frequencies, dimensions that we are just some of us are like, you have like a goat herder throwing language at it thousands of years ago, and you have like, midlife crisis dads like
yeah,
Elon Musk trying to throw words at it, but you just have people trying to throw words at phenomena that is like wildly past anything that we have the ability to,
yeah.
understand.
We're just barely evolved apes, right? Just trying to
Yeah, yeah,
make sense of what's around us in our four
exactly.
dimensions that we can understand, right?
Yeah, we're still so like ego bound, like we're so
Oh yeah,
ego bound that we're like basically virtually incapable of experiencing reality.
yeah.
Well, that was one of the things that was brought up when I interviewed Andrew Davis about that book was the fact that a lot of the arguments from like kind of like a physics and biological standpoint is that j- even the possibility for human intelligence wouldn't have happened until like a few billion years after the Big Bang.
Yeah,
And so like that is like there's still many years that happens, but there's still quite a bit of time between the possibility for human intelligence to even emerge, for that to happen from the time that human intelligence actually does start to emerge. Like
Yeah, I think it was just
yeah,
6,000.
massive.
It was just 6,000 years, right?
That's right. Yeah, just like just a couple decades ago, really. But like, there's still like considerable amount of time between like for intelligence to the human capability to happen from the time that humans even emerge on the scene. Like, there's a massive amount of time that happens in between those years, and so the possibility for other planets that might be hospitable to life, to have that evolution to happen even before then, before humans emerge on the map of history, there's a lot of possibility there, and so that's part of the argument that I talked to Andrew about in that
mm,
book. So
yeah,
yeah, like, so that's to say that there might be highly much more evolved life out there that emerged on the map way before we did, because of the fact that like intelligence emerges at a certain point in human history. The possibility of intelligence emerges at a certain point in history, and humans don't come along until way later.
Well, there's even a chance there's
yeah,
more intelligent life in the ocean than us. We don't even know, right?
That's right.
true.
I mean, I believe dolphins are smarter than us. So,
Hey, well, they give each other
I
oral
do
sex,
too.
so that's true.
They are very sexual creatures,
oh my
dolphins.
god.
I understand them to be.
Yeah, they.
Also, speaking of egotistical, I mean, holy crap! Have you ever seen a dolphin look at itself in a mirror?
Is it almost like
No.
watching a metalcore vocalist look at
Yes, they're
himself in
going
the
like
mirror?
they're doing like all the dances, you know.
No, nothing will bring you to TikTok stardom than being a metalcore vocalist.
Yeah, I got to get on TikTok or something, man.
No, you don't. Don't
You,
don't
you,
do it.
you see what TikTok did for Sleep Token and other bands, and I'm like, that's cool.
The Chinese don't need another metal vocalist on there.
Yeah, it is crazy that, man. We did a China tour once.
How was that?
Wild,
Was
really
it
wild.
was it restrictive, or
I was
as
given a
restrictive as you
Bible. I
thought?
was given a Bible at one of the shows by people who were like, "This is like not a legal Bible." Like, and I was like, "I can't read this, and I'm going back to America, and you should give it to someone else." And they were like, "No, we want you to have it because like it's like a just something to remember us." And I
You
I,
know
I
what?
remember being like, "Wow, that's wild!" Like you spend your whole life in like evangelical America listening to like really stupid people pretend to be like pre- pretend that they're being persecuted because they're experiencing the repercussions of their stupidity, and then like you're in China and you're just like talking to these um, really genuine students, and you're like, wow, you're actually like a persecuted church. That's wild.
What if they were only giving you the Bible because they worked for the government? They wanted you to get stopped
Well,
at customs.
you know what's weird is I had the Bible in my backpack, and 2 days later, I was like I was, like, asleep in the floor of what's supposed to be a cafe. I didn't sleep for weeks. We were, like, literally spending 12 hours a day on bullet trains because we were going across, like we went all over China. We not just,
Yeah.
like, the big major cities on the coast. And, anyways, my the Bible fell out of my bag at some point, and some students ran up, and one of them was, like, looking at it, and then this, like, cop walked through the train car, and I was like, "No way. Is this about to happen? Like, am I about to be, on international news or something?"
An
Like,
international
what are the
criminal.
odds it fell out and the kids are looking at it, and I'm just, like, sitting there as the but it looks like I'm like, "Hey, kids, read the Bible. I'm from America. I'm trying to indoctrinate you." It could read so much worse, in the eyes of the government than it was, but nothing really came of it, so, yeah.
That's nuts.
Damn. Well, God, could you imagine like being, like Silent Planet like blows up overnight because they were like the evangelist band that like snuck into China and were getting kids to read the Bible and got busted for it. And it's
And all of a
like
sudden, we're
they
getting
were on
paid
solid state
50K
records.
to
Like that's couldn't be further from the truth of like what they were trying to do.
You would have
and
so
then we
many
just start
QAnon
getting paid
fans.
50K to play metalcore for, like, for Greg
Trumpies.
Laurie's church or something. Yeah, that'd be wild, man.
Can you imagine?
Crazy. Crazy.
You'd be set for life, Garrett. You should have wished that cop would have freaked out about it.
I think a lot of people would quickly feel conflicted about lyrics that we already had, though.
That's true. That's probably true. Yeah.
It would be
But
kind
you'd
of a
have health insurance
50-50 thing.
probably.
I would have health insurance, and you're right, I don't have health insurance. You
I
know me
don't
too well.
I don't put anything past evangelicals anymore though. If they can love what Trump says, and they can get on board with the Trump train, I don't put anything past them. They would look at your lyrics and be like, "Oh man, that's actually the truth."
Hmm, okay. I
Yeah.
don't know, calling God mother is always a step too far for the
Yeah,
Theo
that could be.
bros in my experience.
Yeah.
Well, they call Trump daddy, so there's
And
That's
their
true.
savior sometimes.
They are fans of
true.
idolatry in general,
Yeah,
Big
so
time.
it's right.
Big
I think
time.
that's why you can't put anything past them because they are fans of idolatry, so anything else can follow that.
Maybe you just need to like write an entire album about like how you had a child that like died and went to heaven, and that might get you health insurance.
And, like, the album's about, like, Hillary Clinton versus the child or something?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
totally. Yeah, like the
Lock her
child
up.
dies, fights off Hillary Clinton and gets to heaven and then like comes back to life. Like that would totally get you health insurance.
Just get a coked up Donald Trump Jr., like, doing, like, a little spoken word part in the middle. Just
Aaron White
crazy.
style.
Crazy,
What
dude.
would that Cullen, you do a good Donald Trump impression. What would Donald Trump spoken word even sound like?
I walked into the room and I was like, "Wow, there's a lot of Christians in here. I just think that there needs to be more Christians. I can't believe there's so many Christians."
That was a good Trump.
That's what
That
I'm
was a good
saying.
I'm,
That's
I'm
impression.
really
working
good
on it.
Donald Trump.
I'm working on it.
Garrett,
Hopefully, it's not relevant again at some
But
point in the next
it will be very relevant very soon. It's so crazy to me that, like, Republicans are like, "We're gonna run like them," or like Ron DeSantis. It's like, "No, stupid. They love one man."
Yeah,
love one man.
yeah.
Like the other people, like, might speak through their brain, but, like, they love him. Like, there's no getting off of
It
that.
still blows my mind that there's a very real possibility that we could be voting for somebody who's currently in office and somebody like the two choices, somebody currently in office and somebody currently in prison. Like that could be a real possibility next year.
Which is definitely how most civil wars start, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a real possibility. I just find that just blows my mind. All right, Garrett, let's talk about your top 5 most guilty pleasure artists besides Nickelback. So like who are the artists that even if you don't feel guilty about listening to them, at least you would be made fun of for listening to them. So who are some of these artists?
You know, I like a lot of just, like, random sometimes I like to just listen to random, like, cyberpunk, EDM
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
You know, kinda
Okay.
Alright.
like which there's nothing wrong with it musically, but, like, aesthetically, it kinda has the cringy, like, guy in a hood, like, walking down the alleyway and half of his hand is, like, made of, like, some kind of, like, thing from a video game and you're like, "Oh, this song's cool," and then you look over and it's, like, a half machine lady looking all sexy, and you're just like, "This is, like, really the aesthetic of this music is really not, like, my thing," but, like, the music is kinda, like, hits and is, like, interesting and or not even I mean, it's not crazy, like, fascinating music, but it's, like, the right amount of, like, the tonal thing's kinda cool, and you can just listen to it, so I would say that would be one guilty pleasure. I can't even think of an artist, but just, like, YouTube, like, cyberpunk stuff, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Just YouTube cyberpunk. That's it. We can just leave it
Yeah,
at that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'd be
Love it.
one. Nickelback. We talked about Nickelback and you brought Nickelback up, but I'm gonna say Nickelback.
You're
Okay,
a
Chad
Nickelback
Kroger.
fan, huh?
Look at this graph. I don't know if Mason was there for that one, but,
Look
yeah,
at
look at
this
this
graph.
graph. And it's the statistics of the United States war crimes. Okay.
Yes. I love it.
3rd one,
What's your go-to like Nickelback song? Like what's the one that whenever you listen to Nickelback, you're like, God, that is I have to replay that
They
again.
say
That
a
is so good.
no,
hero can save
the
us.
metal one. No, it's kinda new. It's something The Machine. It's,
Nickelback, The
it came out
Machine.
in, like, a few years ago, and there's a music video where, like, the camera's just going
Feed the
through
Machine.
yeah, Feed the Machine.
How does it go? Can you give us a little taste? Just
I
just
honestly
off the cuff?
honestly, I don't even know it that well, but I'm trying to think of guilty pleasure artists, and I'm like, "Well, Nickelback." It's a great song. Of course, I know they're classics, you know? "Look at this photograph," like that, you know?
How about
"I must
this?
have never said"
Okay.
Ooh, kinda cyberpunky.
Yeah. Hey, there's a track.
It does kind of have a metal vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah, that one.
That is actually kinda cool.
And then
Oh, not anymore.
and then it's just him with, like, Marcus Monty doing a little riff.
It's so weird. Like the guitars are like, this is so metal, and then like Chad Kroger comes in and like, don't think it's metal.
Yeah, but the chorus is still radio hot,
Alright, that's enough.
It's honestly kinda like they listened to Thrice and they kinda wanted to rip Thrice a little bit with that pre-chorus.
That's definitely them
Um,
trying to be serious. That bass tone is actually pretty cool. I think that's
yeah,
what
that one
pulls it
was
all
pretty
together.
sick. So,
Yeah.
we'll go with Nickelback. I mean, I don't even know other guilty pleasures. It's just not guilty, but, like, as far as, I guess, in the pop world, I love Carly Rae Jepsen.
Oh, 100%
Um,
guilty pleasure.
okay, does that count? Okay,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
hundred
was
percent
the
Yeah.
counts.
record Dedicated?
Sure.
The one that had, like, "He Needs Me" on it? I love that song. "He Needs
Where's
Me."
Justin Jones when you need him? Oh
Yeah,
god.
he's a total. What? Where? Oh wait, no. Here. She's got what were the options here
Okay,
for?
there it is.
Dedicated or something like that?
Everything He Needs by Carly Rae Jepsen. One of my
Okay.
favorite songs ever, super poppy. She has a lot of, like, really, really catchy, really sexy songs on that record.
She is great at getting like that
Dedicated.
earworm. She is like a master at that. Like even "Call Me Maybe" is still like such an earworm song where even if you
Oh,
hate
yeah,
it, it's
and
like it
I
just
gotta
gets
say,
stuck in your mind.
any Carly Rae Jepsen fan will say this, but I do have to be clear. "Call Me Maybe," I know it's a great it's a famous song, but That, like, oh my god, she has so much better songs than that. Like, trust me, just listen to her 2019 record, Dedicated, if you haven't. You'll know what I'm talking about. It is just if you're looking for that, like, kind of, you know, bubblegum pop sound, she does it the best.
She is very good at it. All right, so we've got Cyberpunk, Nickelback, and Carly Rae Jepsen. Are there a couple others that are like you'd be made fun of
Well,
for
so we were
listening to?
talking about the System of a Down qualify, 'cause I know half of the people I feel like on the internet definitely feel like it's probably kind of ridiculous music,
Yeah.
talking about pizza pies and stuff.
Want a split a pie, pizza pie, pepperoni, angry peppers, mushrooms, all the
But, like,
chives.
it's so good,
It
and
is.
also
It
their message is very political and, you know, taught a lot about the Armenian genocide and stuff, so I I don't know, but I'll say them just because it's like I it is they have some very ridiculous songs about cocaine and Hollywood and
They are a band where let's say they were like purely kind of like a Blink 182 goofy band. They
yeah,
probably wouldn't have actually gotten as big because I don't think they would have like ever
been
gotten the
taken
respect that
seriously.
they needed to like because they had such a weird metal sound. Like they, in terms of like bands in that kind of alternative metal world, they are such a weird sounding band that if they were purely just like a kind of a like a meme goofy band, I don't think they would have gotten the respect that they deserve. But the fact that they're like, we're all Armenian and we're going to talk about like how all of
Yeah,
our like
yeah,
ancestors were killed in this genocide, like I think that immediately got people to be like, oh, we should probably like actually think
yeah.
highly of this band.
Okay,
I
so
I was
here's a
once
quick go ahead, sorry.
I was once talking about System of a Down with Mitch, who writes most of our music, and he made the point that, like, if that band was not mixed and produced perfectly, they would sound so bad, because
Oh,
if you
yeah.
do the
It's true.
individual parts of it, it's like something you hear when people are super drunk at a bar, and it's like, "There's no way." But then it all comes together, and the best music is like that. The best music, you can't take layer by layer back, and it's still cool. The best music, the layers individually aren't that cool, they don't make
Right.
that much sense, and then it all happens, and then it's great.
Yeah. Well, that's Rick Rubin for you too. I mean,
Yeah, for real.
the guy just does it. So here's a question though, and it's something that I never once thought that System of a Down was a new metal band, but I've been hearing people call them a new metal band, and I guess I'm confused
I
because
think it's very era based. It's a very era thing because
yeah,
they it's like the era of which they came up. They like were kind of they were too metal to just be called rock, but it
right.
wasn't like actually metal music. So then I guess it gets through because new metal means Deftones and Limp Bizkit, and you're
Yeah,
like, what the fuck?
That's
yeah.
yeah, it's very different.
I guess I just
Very
never, like,
different.
saw them in, like, the same category or, like, the same, like, kind of like, I could see Deftones and Limp Bizkit playing at the same show potentially, but I could not see
Nowadays, because there's nerds and there's Reddit, we have, like, actual subgenres that, like, might, you know, tell you what to expect, but, like, back then, I think there it was also just it was, like, music was better because people were better, and they weren't, like, drunk on categories, which are, like,
and genre snobs, yeah.
very meaningless, very
Yeah.
unhelpful forms of language.
True.
That's why I always describe System of a Down as alternative metal, even though even that isn't exactly like the best description for them. But they definitely weren't new metal by any means. Like they definitely did not sound like
Yeah,
Limp Bizkit
no.
or
Even
early
Deftones, yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah, even early Deftones or even yeah, like Linkin Park. They like it seemed like they had their own category of music that they were doing that nobody else was trying to rip off.
Yeah, they're
That
like psychedelic
turned into a
thrash,
genre.
that's how I'd call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
like that.
They're a
So
weird band, but yeah, I can totally see how like some people probably would think of them as a guilty pleasure, but at the same time, like they're probably like a huge cred band in a lot of ways too.
yeah, they are. To me, they are, and I've always been open about loving them and their influence to me, but I know that, I just see them get clowned enough on Twitter that I thought, "Hey, maybe I you know, maybe I could,
I
list
think
them."
I thought of a new qualifier for this. Um, they're a guilty pleasure if you would not put a bumper sticker of their band on the back of your car. And I
Okay,
don't think I would
okay.
put a bumper sticker of System of a Down on the back of my car.
Yeah, no, neither would I.
I feel
Yeah.
like Tool's like that. Too for
Tool's
you though,
definitely
right?
like I love Tool, but I would never put a Tool sticker on the back of
Yeah,
my
well,
car.
with Tool, you also have the issue of, like, the fan base just being,
That's
like,
true,
That's
100%.
why they
early fan
suck.
base.
And it's the worst band name ever.
Yeah, yeah, it is pretty when I was in college, Tool was definitely, like, the primary derogatory term to describe someone who, like,
Oh,
sucked
yeah.
and
Right,
thought they
yeah.
were, like, cool.
Fucking Tool bag.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, a
yeah,
Tool was
douchebag or tool
definitely,
bag,
like,
yeah.
our favorite word to use, so it is funny to think a band's called Tool when it's like, "Yeah, you Tool," like, yeah.
All right, so we got System of a Down as well. Last one, like, is there another artist that you can think of that you're like, the guys in my band are gonna make fun of me for it, or my friends are gonna make fun of me for listening to this, or maybe you actually truly do feel guilty about listening to them. But any other artists that you can think of?
Dude, there's select albums. Okay, well, here's this, I mean, my first concert was Weird Al when I was a kid, and I don't listen to him now, but I still appreciate Weird Al. Even more so probably okay, New Found Glory,
Hmm.
Sum 41, New Found Glory, and Cartel, some kinda early pop punk stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sum 41 less poppy, but some of the early that pop punk stuff that I still like to listen to, which is funny because I don't really enjoy modern pop punk, and then I just realized because like, I'm old and that was my world of pop punk that I got introduced to when I was 12 or 13, but I still love to listen to a lot of that stuff. Um,
I
eh,
think I think
uh,
Sum 41 is a great example there. I saw
yeah.
Sum 41 at a festival, um, and I never felt more embarrassed to be at the festival than when I was listening to them. And I do like a lot of their
Yeah,
songs, but, like, I was super embarrassed to be there. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm watching this right now."
yeah, yeah. I, man, we were on Worked with them once, and I would see him all the time, and I'd be like, "Damn, that's the guy from Sum 41." Like, it was definitely, like, the craziest thing was seeing him or New Found Glory. Um, but yeah, I don't I wish, maybe I need more guilty pleasures, maybe I need to learn how to enjoy MGK or, like, I need
Yeah.
to find even a love for Blink-182,
There you go.
t to be honest to be honest, when Blink-182 announces, like, their comebacks and they do all this, like, gimmicking marketing where they're, like, stealing from, like, kind of the actual culture of punk, I'm always just kinda like, "I don't like Blink-182 at all," and I don't feel bad about it anymore. I think I used to not really dig them, but I would never say that because 'cause they're, like, the legendary punk
Yeah.
band, but now that they do all this, like, you
"What the
know
fuck's up, Denny's?"
yeah, they do all this, like, cop shit. I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I guess I can say I don't like Blink-182 now."
They definitely are trying to be they're trying to force themselves into being like a cred band without actually having that respect to be of being a cred band. You know, like the
Yeah,
fact that they had like Turnstile uh for that last tour opening for them, it's like, oh, they're really trying to like get, become cred among that crowd of people who clearly
right,
think, Turnstile is like this cred band or whatever. And the whole like
right.
what the fuck is up Denny's like thing, it's like you guys are just trying to be cred. And I don't know, like you're just forcing yourself, and you can't force yourself to be like a crud band.
Yeah.
Agreed, agreed, and I think too, like, I mean, they are just they're a legacy band, and, they that's why they exist, and, that's okay, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I mean, they have healthcare, I'm sure. So I'm happy for them, it's all good, but I can't say I love them, even though I do appreciate that one homie, talking about aliens and stuff, even
Yeah.
though
Tom
even
Tom
though
DeLonge,
then
you
DeLonge.
got
again, I don't know how much that, like, To the Stars Academy is really what's helping, but anyways.
Yeah.
here's
No,
my like funny Blink 182 story. A number of years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, I met this guy here in Minneapolis who like knew all of the guys in that pop punk scene, and he was a
Yeah.
ghostwriter for them. Like he had ghostwritten like all of this like main album. He like
Great.
very consistently ghostwrited for Tom DeLonge and Blink 182. And
really?
so he like knew Tom really well. Like he was like, "Oh, I could text him right now if like I wanted to." So I asked him like, "Is the alien stuff like legit, or is he just like trying to like pull a fast
Oh,
one
it's
on everyone?"
legit.
He's like,
Us
"Oh no, no, like he is 100% in the alien shit.
Oh,
Like he's that's
100%.
absolutely invested.
Have you ever heard
Yeah.
him do interviews about it? I mean, he's next
He knows his
level.
shit. Yeah, he knows his
Yeah.
shit. He's 100% into it.
No, that's honestly my favorite thing about Blink-182, to be honest, because it's not the music, but I know some of the songs for sure. Definitely loved them when I was 9 or 10. All the small things. You know.
That I feel like a lot of like guilty pleasures are like that. It's like you loved them at like 9 or 10, and it like continues to be a song you love to this day. Like that feels like the
Adams.
case for
I,
me.
I thought Adam's song was pretty good.
Oh no, that's a legit like that's a really good song. It's a
I like
very
that
well
one.
fun song.
I
Garrett,
like that one.
I'm glad that you're speaking truth to power too, because I felt like I was the only one that actually stated that I don't like Blink-182 ever.
Yeah, dude. For me, it's like, why would I listen to Blink-182 if I could listen to Sum 41? I like that way more.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I'm still embarrassed by that. So
Yeah, they, um, yeah. Man, Taking Back Sunday. I was listening to them again recently,
that's not bad. That's good stuff.
and
I,
Brand
I can
New.
handle that.
I know Brand New's canceled, but good songs.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Garrett, what do you want to plug? Obviously, new album is out. Tour stuff is going to be coming up here soon. Yeah, what do you want to tell the people about what you got going on?
Nothing. Want to come over?
Nothing.
Yeah,
Sorry,
why not? Let's
I
hang.
just had to say that. We have a tour coming up. We're gonna announce it on Wednesday. When does this
Yeah,
air?
not Wednesday, so it's going to be after now.
Okay. So actually, welcome to the future where we have a tour that's been announced with Thornhill and Johnny Booth and Aviana.
Oh man,
Oh shit.
that's
Cool
good stuff.
bands that we love. Thornhill's been my favorite band in the like modern kind of metal space, them and Loathe, for quite some time. So really excited for that. Aviana's a cool band from Sweden, who is gonna be rad and come over. And Johnny Booth is from upstate New York, and they
They're
put
wild.
out definitely one of the sleeper album of the year rockers.
Yes.
Called Moments Elsewhere. So it's going to be a great tour. We're going to be playing Super Bloom in full. We're going to be playing a bunch of other songs of ours. We're going to be playing some obscure ones, some old ones, and obviously all the new stuff, and maybe even some newer stuff, some jam sessions, and going to be some planets, and it's going to be fun. So
Nice.
that's the main thing that we got coming up that I'm excited about. That's January through February, and excited
Dude,
for that.
that's sick.
Then after that, we'll be heading over to Europe to support our friends in a band called Polaris,
Oh shit.
who
Good
rocks.
stuff.
We're going to play some shows with them. Thornhill will also be on that, and Pale Dusk from Japan, who's one of the most energetic, insane bands ever. Look up their music video
Did you say
right
pale
now
dusk
if you
or
can.
pale dust?
Look look up Black Ice is the name of the song by Pale Dusk. Insane. Their music videos are like, I've just never seen anything like it. Love them. Cool band. Very excited. So gonna play a lot of shows. Gonna be working on some new music. And if you are a fan of Silent Planet, you'll be finding some different documents making their way to the surface as they become declassified. So
Ah,
if you are interested in declassified documents and
Okay.
maybe learning more about the story behind Super Bloom.
I like it.
Yeah,
That sounds fun. That sounds almost alien like.
it is alien in nature, though there's not someone giving birth on a spaceship in 1979. But
Yet.
yes, yet.
Maybe in like 2029.
Or 2029, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Anything else you'd like to plug?
The other thing I'd like to plug is the fact that I've been receiving documents in the mail for quite some time from the CIA saying that I have to cease all activity. Um, Otherwise, they were going to try to destroy me. So
Are you Russell Crowe?
I'm roughly related to Russell Crowe in a very rough sense.
Really?
Damn.
Yeah.
Like rough around the edges, or like
No, I think
brother-in-law
we
twice
were I think we're
removed, or
third cousins,
okay.
I believe. 23andMe seems to be suggesting that we are related on some level, which is funny
Okay.
because you wonder at some point maybe there
Wow.
was a dyslexic nurse or something just happened and the names got
Right.
switched
Okay.
somewhere along the way.
Holy
What
cow.
how
What a
how would
what a
the
thing.
CIA even destroy you? I mean, I mean, you are a very well-built man,
The
who
CIA can destroy
clearly can, like,
anyone.
scream, but what are they gonna do to you?
They've destroyed nations, Nathan Mason. Come on now.
Yeah, they
That's true.
just well,
Did they find out that you were a socialist and they were like, "Oh, fuck."
no, they found out that I can turn chopsticks into weapons
Oh.
and send them through the air like knives, throwing
Oh,
knives.
shit.
Yeah,
Holy buckets.
Damn.
I'm
yeah.
staying away
Did
from you
I
when we're eating
Cullen, I don't know if
Chinese.
I've told you this, Cullen. I actually got shot with a shish kebab stick once, which is close to a,
Wow.
somewhat close to a chopstick. But I got shot by a
Was
shish
Garrett
kebab
around?
stick once. I had a friend that put a shish
I
kebab
was the
stick down the
chopstick.
barrel of a BB gun. It fit perfectly down the barrel of a BB gun. He cocked it, thinking like
What?
it would just like plop out. Nope, that thing fucking whoop, and stuck into my arm. I was like
It
in sixth
pierced
grade.
you?
Yeah, it hit me and stuck in my arm. It was about like an inch deep in my arm, and I just pulled it out. I was like, dude, what the fuck? And I didn't want to tell my mom that he shot me, so like I like sort of was trying to hide it. And then one day, again, I was like in sixth grade or whatever. I like had my shirt off, and there was like a big bruise and like kind of a wound of it. Still, it was like a week later, and my mom was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh fuck, I got to like either figure out how to lie this right now, like which I have not planned a story around. How I'm gonna lie about this, or I just like need to come like true about it." So I just like told my mom like the truth that yeah, like my friend Cole shot me with a BB gun with a shish kebab stick.
I I have a weirdly similar story, but on my torso, and it's like
Oh
stab wound.
damn.
It's like
Hey,
this
can
little
you
stab
pull it
wound
up a little bit? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Can you pull up the other side of your shirt, please? I'd love to get this demonetized if possible.
We can't do David Stagg like that.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
David Stagg needs to make a little bit of money from this. So
that's
I'd
right.
Dude,
That's right.
I love David. I haven't talked to him in a while. I gotta catch up with that guy. But yeah, stab wound, same thing. My buddy had a spear, and I got like stabbed with it. I bled a lot.
Fuck.
Very
Kind of
Jesus-like.
similar, just screwing around with sharp
Yeah.
objects with your friends. Yeah.
Do you ask for a sponge of vinegar too, or what?
Yeah, only water came out, and then all of a sudden I'm speaking a different language. It was great. Totally normal times growing up in Redding, California, and
I
you know what
guess
city
so.
Redding, California is.
Jesus.
You you
Love it.
you know you know about Redding, California, Mason.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. The good old Tommy Green, sleeping giant.
The Bethel.
And
That's the
yeah, and
Bethel
Bethel.
one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Bethel
Bethel
School of
Redding. Yeah,
Supernatural Ministry.
that's right.
That's wild.
That's my
Hey, one
Pentecostal
last
name.
thing before you go, Garrett. I don't know, Mason. Maybe you have this problem too. Maybe Garrett, you might even have this problem. Every single time I type in Silent Planet, I always forget the E in planet, so it writes Silent Plant,
Mm.
and then the first thing I think of is like an
All of the
like a
plants
like
that
a
are silent.
really what's that?
I think when I think of silent plant, I think of all of them.
They're all
Like
silent. All the
like
Don't you
plants are
think
silent.
I've yet to hear a plant
so
that
you
makes
fall in the
noise.
hole if a tree falls in the woods, it doesn't make a sound.
That's right.
You're on that side of the camp, okay.
Well, my first thought is always like a Soundgarden kind of thing. Like
Oh,
it's like a rip off of Soundgarden. It's just Silent Plant though.
I'm sure we
Oh,
are a rip-off of Soundgarden.
The
that's right.
Soundgarden, sound, silent, garden, plant. It's a
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
like
I
the
never
cover
really thought
band. You
about
guys are
that.
kind of a little bit of a Soundgarden cover band.
I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of look like Chris Cornell. I mean, way
Oh
more than
yeah.
Chad Kroger. I'll tell you that much.
Can you take it all away? I'm just kidding. I know that's not Soundgarden. I just thought I would ruin the mood. But, yeah. Rest in peace. Great singer. Great performer.
Oh, the best.
Don't really know anything else, but I'm sure a great human to many people too.
Yeah,
No,
for
I
sure.
mean, Cullen, I totally see the resemblance. He totally,
Yeah.
especially the beard. The beard is really.
If you're
I
ever
don't know
gonna
what's good at
do
singing though. Okay.
if you're ever going to do a cover, Jesus Christ Pose would be a great cover, and you guys could like redo the music video, and you could look just like him in the desert doing that cool shit.
Oh, people would get so mad.
Oh, but it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing.
um,
Everybody except Cullen would be mad.
Yeah.
maybe we'll just make it for you, and the agreement is we'll do it, but only you can see it.
Okay. I
And
mean,
if
if
you,
Greta Van Fleet can do all these
Led Zeppelin
Led
shit.
Zeppelin covers that aren't quote unquote Led Zeppelin covers, and everyone loves them, I don't see why everyone wouldn't love you for
no,
being
because soccer moms go to Greta Van Fleet shows. They don't cancel people. They give them their money. In my world, people don't give you money, they cancel you.
You got to get into that soccer mom market, then I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a soccer shirt on, so I'm
Hey,
working.
There you go.
yeah, you're on
It's
the
a
way.
full-time job, but yeah, we'll see.
Love it. Garrett, it's so much fun hanging out with you all the time. It's just
Hey,
you are one of those
let me
people
hang
I'm
out with
like,
you.
God, I really wish I could just hang out with you like every weekend, even though you're like always busy. But it would be just like so much fun to like just hang out with you all the time. But with all of that said, new album is fantastic. It's definitely
Thank
gonna
you,
be
thank you,
on our top 5 albums of the year list. It's so
Yeah,
fucking good.
it's
So
amazing.
thanks for
thank
so
you,
much for chatting a
thank
little
you.
bit about it, and then like
Appreciate it.
literally hanging out and talking about whatever it is that we end up doing, end up talking
Aliens.
about when we hang out. Butt rock,
I've had a really good
aliens,
time.
all the things.
I've had a good time, and I say we make this at least like, biannual or something.
At
At
least.
least, at least.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's do
You
it.
just want to be our third host? That'd be fun.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm in. You have my digits, so thank you for having me.